Welcome to this lecture on the fundamentals of genetics. Today, we're going to explore a fascinating topic known as sex-linked inheritance. Have you ever wondered why certain genetic conditions, like colorblindness, are so much more common in men than in women? The answer lies deep within our chromosomes. By the end of this session, you will understand exactly how these traits are passed from parents to offspring, and why biological sex plays such a crucial role in our genetic destiny. To begin our journey, let us imagine that the genes building a human body are like a set of instruction manuals. Most of these manuals come in perfectly matched pairs. If one manual is missing a page, the other has a backup copy to save the day. But there is one special pair that determines biological sex, and for males, these manuals are completely mismatched. Think of the X chromosome as a large, detailed book full of crucial instructions. In contrast, the Y chromosome is just a tiny pamphlet. Because this tiny pamphlet is missing a lot of genetic information found in the big X book, males do not have a backup copy for many traits. This unique mismatch creates the special pattern we call sex-linked inheritance. Now that we understand the physical difference between the chromosomes, let us look at what this means for genetics. When we talk about sex-linked traits, we are almost always talking about X-linked traits, simply because the X chromosome holds hundreds of genes, while the Y holds very few. Females possess two X chromosomes, written genetically as XX. This means they have two copies of every X-linked gene, allowing them to be homozygous or heterozygous. Males, however, possess one X and one Y chromosome, written as XY. This makes them hemizygous. Because males have only one X chromosome, whatever allele they inherit on it, whether dominant or recessive, will be physically expressed. There's no second X chromosome to mask a recessive disease gene. Building on this genetic makeup, we see a very specific transmission pathway emerge, known as the crisscross pattern of inheritance. Because a father must pass his Y chromosome to his sons, he passes his single X chromosome exclusively to his daughters. A mother, having two X chromosomes, passes one to both her sons and her daughters. This pattern is absolutely critical in medicine. It perfectly explains why genetic disorders like red-green color blindness, hemophilia, and Duchenne muscular dystrophy appear far more frequently in men. Without this knowledge, doctors would be baffled as to why healthy parents could suddenly have a son with a severe bleeding disorder, while the daughters remain healthy. Genetic counselors use this exact pattern to predict disease probabilities for future children. Having established the biological concepts, let us translate this into mathematics to predict outcomes. To find the probability of having a male child with a recessive X-linked disease, we look at two independent events. The formula states that the probability of an affected son equals the probability of inheriting the Y chromosome from the father multiplied by the probability of inheriting the recessive X chromosome from the mother. Let us break down these symbols. The first term is the chance the father passes his Y chromosome, which dictates the child is male. This is always exactly 0.5 or 50%. The second term is the chance the mother passes the X chromosome carrying the recessive disease allele, denoted by the superscript R. If the mother is a carrier, this is also 0.5. As the mother's chance of passing the disease allele increases, the overall probability of an affected son increases proportionally. Now that we have our formula, let us apply it to a classic real-world scenario involving red-green color blindness. We are given a woman with normal vision who carries the color blindness allele, meaning her genotype is X capital R, X lowercase r. She has children with a man who has normal vision, so his genotype is XY. We're asked to find the genetic combinations of their children. To solve this, we first determine the gametes each parent can produce. The mother can give either her healthy X or her carrier X. The father can give either his healthy X or his Y chromosome. By combining these gametes, we get 4 equally likely genetic combinations for their children. This step-by-step breakdown reveals exactly what genotypes are possible in the next generation. Following our previous step, let us analyze those 4 offspring genotypes to answer our main question: what is the probability of a colorblind son? Looking at the daughters, both combinations result in normal vision, though one is a carrier. Looking at the sons, one inherits the healthy X and has normal vision, while the other inherits the recessive X from the mother and the Y from the father, making him colorblind. Out of the 4 possible outcomes, only one results in a colorblind son. Therefore, we calculate the overall probability for any given pregnancy to be 1/4, or 25%. Physically, this means that while the overall risk is 25%, if we only look at the male children, there is a 50% chance a son will be affected, illustrating male vulnerability. To reinforce the calculations we just performed, let us look at this visual representation called a Punnett square. Along the top axis, you can see the mother's alleles, the healthy X and the carrier X. Along the left vertical axis, we have the father's alleles, his healthy X and his Y chromosome. The 4 boxes inside the grid represent the possible genetic combinations for their children. Notice the bottom right box, which is highlighted in red. This represents the affected son, who inherits the recessive allele from his mother and the Y chromosome from his father. This diagram clearly shows why the daughters are protected by the father's healthy X chromosome, while the sons are entirely dependent on which X chromosome they receive from their mother. Now that we have seen a carrier mother, let us flip the scenario to see how the crisscross pattern works across generations. Imagine a father who is colorblind, meaning his genotype is XY. He has children with a woman who is completely normal and homozygous, meaning her genotype is XR. We want to find the genetic status of their daughters. The mother can only pass down a healthy X chromosome. The father, to create a female child, must pass his X chromosome, which carries the colorblindness allele. Therefore, every single daughter will inherit the combination XR, X_r. Because the mother provides a healthy dominant allele, none of the daughters will be colorblind. Instead, 100% of them will be healthy carriers. Building on that last example, let us formally prove a fundamental rule of genetics regarding fathers and sons. We are setting out to establish exactly why a father's X-linked traits never appear in his male offspring. Let us look at the mathematical reasoning. By definition, to be a biological son, the child must inherit the Y chromosome from the father. The father's colorblindness trait, however, is physically located on his X chromosome. Because the father is giving his Y chromosome to create the son, he is mathematically and biologically excluded from passing his X chromosome to that same child. This step is crucial because it isolates the source of the son's X chromosome entirely to the mother. Continuing our proof, we now look at the mother's contribution. Since the son receives his Y from the father, he must inherit his single X chromosome from the mother. In our scenario, the mother is homozygous normal, meaning she only has healthy X alleles to give. When we combine the mother's healthy X with the father's Y, The resulting genotype for all sons is XY. This means 100% of the sons will have perfectly normal vision and will not even carry the disease. Through this logical deduction, we have proven a fundamental rule of genetics. Fathers cannot pass X-linked traits to their sons. The intuition here is simple but powerful. The very chromosome that makes a child male is the one that protects him from his father's X-linked diseases. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us summarize the most important ideas. First, sex-linked inheritance is driven by the unequal genetic information between the large X and the tiny Y chromosomes. Second, because males have only one X chromosome, they are highly vulnerable to recessive conditions like colorblindness and hemophilia. Third, females typically act as silent carriers, protected by their second X chromosome. Finally, always remember the golden rule. Fathers pass X-linked traits to their daughters, while mothers pass them to both sons and daughters. You now have the tools to solve any sex-linked genetics problem with confidence. Great job today, and keep exploring the wonders of genetics.